Welcome to episode 1 of the 9 Frames podcast. I'm Mike Whalen.
And I am Bill Whalen.
On this episode, we're going to go over the action over the weekend, and boy, was there a lot of action. We'll start with the Angels and the impending free agent megastar Shohei Ohtani. What do you got for me, Bill?
Well. Start the series off between Pittsburgh and LA this weekend. Henry Davis homers twice off of Shohei Ohtani, but the LA bats pick him up, including himself a little bit. Ohtani goes 0-1 in that game with 3 walks and 2 runs scored. Angels end up winning 8-5. He goes 1 for 8 in the series, has a big homer last night.
Number 36 on the year, which is the major league lead, by the way. The guy's freaking ridiculous. On that note of saying he's freaking ridiculous, the guy's still batting .302 with a .674 slugging and a .1072 OPS, Bill. I know his ERA ballooned a little bit. He's at a .371, but, you'll expect that from a guy that's hitting every other day.
He'll take what you can get.
He's got nearly 150 strikeouts already, 148 to be exact. The guy's crazy.
Absolutely filthy stuff on the mound, no matter what the ERA says. Always pitches to a low whip. Has phenomenal stuff. The Angels end up taking 2 out of 3 from the lowly Pirates, as you expect. They're 4 games back of the wild card. They're sitting at 51-49 right now. The 3 teams above them in the wild card race are Toronto, Boston, and the Yankees in that order. You don't have to play your division as much as you used to, but it's going to play a factor coming down the stretch. What do you think about the Angels' chances in the wild card?
I think they need Trout to come back healthy, and they need Trout to come back healthy very soon. Rendon as well, but who knows when that happens anymore. Their pitching has been a little bit shaky. Detmers
always is.
Canning has been rough, but Canning's had a couple stretches where he's had like 3 or 4 quality starts in a row, so they just need to do what they have to do to get the wins.
And what do you think? You think they trade Ohtani? Any chance?
I don't. I really don't. I don't think it would make any sense for them to trade Ohtani, honestly.
I see it being beneficial to them overall. Like a lot of people say, you're getting a lot of prospects for Ohtani. They might even be pretty high up there. Haven't seen a lot of reasonable packages, to be fair. Because what are you going to get for a guy like that that's worth it?
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough to give up. Like, the Angels are going to want too much, and the teams that are going to be trading for him aren't going to give it up.
The problem is, I think we're sitting here, and I think we wait a couple weeks, and they're probably just out of the race, and they're sitting on a guy that's probably going to end up leaving the team anyway.
And then it ends up being a mistake.
So now you don't have the prospects. You don't have Ohtani. You probably have an unhappy Trout who might even want to get out. He's not the type of guy to ask for it, but a player's got to get sick of losing eventually.
And you'd have to think that somebody would be in on Trout if he became available.
I didn't sign for 15 years. To lose for 15 years, that's a joke.
Yeah, the guy's been there. He's given his service. He's done his time.
And I think Ohtani is heading out because, they haven't won a damn thing.
I wouldn't blame them. They haven't made the playoffs once with them both being on the same team together.
So it'll be interesting to see how that situation shakes out in the coming weeks and to see if maybe the Angels top those teams, because those teams do fight each other all the time in the East there.
Now, let's say we go the other way and the Angels keep Ohtani and they decide to add. Do you have anybody in specific that you think could put a charge into the Angels and turn their season around and get one of those 3 wildcard spots?
I think there's obvious answers because, of course, it's the Angels. And what have the Angels needed for literal years? Pitching, starting pitching, relief pitching. I think I lean starters. So I'm thinking guys like, Shane Bieber. The obvious, Lucas Giolito's, maybe Dylan Cease, teams like that are looking to offload those guys.
No, it's not to. I said just now that they were only playing for a wild card. They are still only 8 games out of the division. It is getting a little bit late in the season, but 8 games is not insurmountable by any stretch.
2 good teams above them in the division there, Texas and Houston, who are again battling to start the week in the Monday to Wednesday series here.
Huge series coming up for those guys.
Silver boot.
That's always fun.
Yeah, so we'll see how it shakes out with the Angels. We'll see how it shakes out with Ohtani. Obviously, the biggest story in maybe all of sports. Obviously, this sport. And we'll follow up on that.
So, final consensus, do you think he gets traded?
I don't. I don't think the owner pulls the trigger.
We're in agreement there. I also do not think he gets traded. Next series we'll touch on a little bit was probably the biggest series of the past weekend. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say so.
Battle of the two potential biggest and best teams in the American League, Baltimore and Tampa Bay, which saw Baltimore take 3 out of 4, which finally gives them sole possession of the first position in the American League East. All by themselves. They are 4 games up in the loss column, though, which could be huge.
Yep, first time they got first place all year from those Rays. People were saying the Rays were going to go post to post. Not today, says Baltimore. My guy, Felix Bautista, he manhandles the Rays.
Dominant.
Gets a W in the first games. They lose the second game. He saves both of the other ones. He has 4 innings pitched in the series, 8 strikeouts, absolute domination. What do you think of his stuff?
He's got some of the filthiest stuff I've seen in quite a while from a reliever. Him and Cano. You got to give Cano his flowers as well.
Absolutely. The absolute monsters coming out of that bullpen.
Probably, would you say the best 8 and 9 in baseball as of right now?
I would say so. We got Yainer Cano pitching to a 1.48 ERA.
It's unbelievable.
With a .90 whip. Then you look over to Felix, .92 ERA with a .86 whip. Just ungodly numbers.
It's crazy.
Monday starts a series between the O's and Philadelphia after they take these 3. Tampa Bay starts against Miami.
See Harper playing first base.
Oh, phenomenal. Got to give the tip of the cap on that.
Unbelievable play.
Yeah,
into the camera well.
Couple great plays.
Nice little dive to his left, I believe it was.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Crazy stuff. No errors either.
Mm-mm.
Played a clean first. For somebody who hasn't ever played first base, it's tough to just go there and do it.
He'll be playing the O's starting now on Monday.
Tip of the cap to Bryce for that, by the way.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable stuff.
So with the A's up 2 games on the Rays, who a lot of people argued was the best team in the American League, are the Orioles the best team in the American League?
I think there is an argument to be made for 3, maybe 4 teams for the best team in the American League. I would include in the conversation...
You putting these in order?
No, just in the conversation, I would include Baltimore, Texas, Tampa Bay, and then I would maybe sneak Houston in there. They're only 3 games behind the Rangers, so if we're considering the Rangers in the conversation, you gotta talk about Houston a little bit as well.
They're not the same club this year, but when the franchise is such a winning franchise like they've been in the past decade or so, I mean, it's hard to ever sleep on them. I would personally love, to see Texas finish off that division race and just put Houston down for once.
Yeah, I agree. I like the Rangers. I like that lineup. They got there's just no breaks in the lineup. It's all thump.
Yeah, I mean, they're leading the AL in just about, maybe leading baseball in most offensive categories.
Yeah, they do have arguably the best lineup. But then you look over in Tampa Bay, their lineup goes punch for punch with the Rangers.
Another franchise, top to bottom, that just does not quit. Always the next man up. A guy that maybe you don't even know his name this year. Next year he's getting an all-star nod. That's the type of guys they get. They're Randy Arozarenas coming out of nowhere.
Find all the gems they possibly can.
Yes, they do. You got to also tip the cap to them. Houston just kind of finishes the job in the postseason, and they always have.
That's always been the thing. They just know how to win.
A lot of clutch players, a lot of all-stars, a lot of Cy Youngs in the past.
Yeah, I mean, with the trade deadline coming up, like we were just talking about with the Angels, I mean, any of these teams, you'd think pretty much all of them are going to be in the thick of trying to improve their ball club, because why wouldn't they?
The Orioles and the Rays are most definitely one player away from being perfect World Series contenders. The Orioles getting a starter, like I said before about the Angels, they get one of those guys.
How about this for you? Marcus Stroman to the Orioles.
I didn't even mention Stroman before. Yeah, that would be crazy. He would be good there.
He fits in.
Sinker baller in a relatively small park.
Keep the ball on the ground.
Always keeps the ball on the ground, and they got a great defense there.
He's been phenomenal this year as well.
Great infield, so they would definitely thrive with him, and I think he would thrive with them too, as he did in Chicago, which is another big park.
It would be pretty interesting to see what they would have to give up to get somebody like Marcus Stroman.
Yeah, do you think Chicago blows it up?
I don't know if they blow it up. I think more of a retool instead of a rebuild is what the Cubs are going to try to do, because they do got some players. They
couple expiring deals, maybe get rid of the Bellinger, and
I think they will trade Bellinger somewhere to a contender.
Stroman's the maybe.
I just think they got guys like they just signed Dansby Swanson to this massive contract. I mean, they're trying to build around young players. I mean, they could retool and make a push next year. The NL wild card is wide open.
Most definitely.
You never
Let's
know.
put a nice clean cap on this conversation. If you have to give, and I'll give my answer too, if you have to give the best team in the AL to someone, who are you giving it to right now?
I think, just given based on how consistent they've been for the entire year, I think you got to stick with the Rays. It's the Rays to lose. They've been struggling a little bit, but I mean, the team started 13-0.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still that same team. It's a long season. Everybody's gonna scuffle at some point. This just happens to be the time they're scuffling, and now the Orioles are just hot.
For me, maybe it's a soft spot I got for the team. I do like them out there. I think it's the big boys in Texas. For once, I think it's finally their time, top to bottom. Go out there, get yourself a pitcher, maybe get yourself a back-end reliever. You need a righty. Get yourself a David Robertson.
Just made it. Oh, that would be interesting.
Yes, it would.
Because the Mets, I don't know.
So you got the Rays, I got the Rangers. We'll keep following up on that and see who's right by the end of this.
For the Rangers, though, they just traded for Chapman, so they got their big lefty.
Oh yeah, a couple big lefties.
Robertson, that might help them. I was thinking, starting pitching for them, Lucas Giolito.
Yeah, Giolito would be a great fit there.
I don't know how much they're willing to give up, because they do seem to be like a year ahead of schedule, but which is great for them. I mean, the guys are playing well.
Got to look more into their farm, and see what they would be willing to give up. Those trades would be very interesting.
If they would think about a Giolito or even a Shane Bieber, I know that sounds crazy, but
give up a couple guys for a difference maker,
they've been I've heard their name mixed in there with Ohtani too, so never.
That would be insane.
That would be something crazy.
Then you get DeGrom coming back next year. Maybe this guy likes Texas, and now you got DeGrom and Ohtani at the top of your rotation.
They
with
got that
Eovaldi and
they got that no state income tax.
Yeah, it would be something. Yeah, maybe we got Kershaw.
Do they have
free agent.
Do they have the money though? They got all those big contracts, Simeon, Seager.
That's what we'll have to see. Everything's bigger in Texas. What about the wallet?
Yeah, we shall see.
So we touched on in an interleague series. We touched on the biggest AL series of the weekend. Now to go over to the biggest NL series of the weekend. That is between the Reds and the D-backs, both coming in at second-place teams, playing for their divisions respectively.
The three scores, however, the Reds sweep, like Bill just said, going 9-6, 4-2, and 7-3, with De La Cruz hitting an absolute bomb to lead off the game yesterday. Real frustrating stuff for the D-backs, honestly, but you gotta think that's quite the momentum builder for Cincinnati.
D-backs just not getting the job done, and the opposite is true for the young Cincinnati Reds, the Big Red Machine.
They just got they lose 5 out of 6 against Milwaukee. The beginning before the break and after the break.
But the kids are all right.
They were on a little bit of a skid there, but now they're on a 5-game win streak, something like that.
Good ball players.
5-game win streak. I think they were on a 6-game losing streak, and now they're on a 5-game win streak.
Good players bounce back, and this is a game of runs that puts Cincinnati a half of a game back against Milwaukee, and Arizona, unfortunately, 4 games back of the LA Dodgers, which, as everybody kind of thought, is inevitable. The Reds play the Brewers in the absolute biggest series of the week, starting at 8:10 tonight.
Going at each other again.
Yes, sir, and the D-backs go and face St. Louis. What do you think, and how do you think this series will pan out between the Reds and the Brewers this time?
I think the Reds desperately need to take 2 out of 3 from the Brewers to prove not only to themselves, but everyone in the National League and, just all around the league in general, that they're to be taken serious.
Most definitely. Do you think they're capable of that?
I think they are. Their starters, their pitching in general is kind of, that's another team that needs to make a trade for a pitcher in the worst way possible.
Now the Reds.
Abbott's been fantastic, though.
The Reds and Ohtani. That's an interesting pairing. If they make that.
I don't see the Angels trading Ohtani, but the Reds, I would assume they have the farm system to get it done.
Short right field porch.
Yeah,
I'd be interested.
Great American's definitely a hitter's ballpark.
I do think about this series, unfortunately. I think maybe it's kind of the tail of the season. The Brewers just kind of have the Reds' number. Maybe the inexperience is playing a role there.
It does seem like the veterans.
I mean, I'm pulling for America's team. I am. How can I? But
wow.
I don't know if they got it in the tank to beat the Brewers in a 3-game series here.
How do you think it goes then?
Bold pick. Brewers sweep.
Wow. That's huge. What would that put them back? 3.5 games?
3.5 games.
Their little 5-game win streak got them in the top wild card spot right now. So the Reds are sitting nice. They're hot.
It's a shutdown end of the bullpen in Milwaukee, and if Milwaukee can get the games there, I just don't know if the kids have enough experience to step up against those big-time pitchers like Devin Williams.
Should be an absolutely insane series again with those two. Real quick, before we move on, how do you think the D-backs respond to being swept?
Yeah, might as well touch on that one, of course, because this is a big one for them. They still have the second wild card spot tied for it, technically, with San Francisco.
And they are going to play St. Louis now, who is, I mean,
having one of their worst seasons.
It's something you really don't see out of St. Louis.
This franchise does not do that.
11 games out of the Central on a 3-game losing streak.
Yeah, a lot of losing streaks this year for the Redbirds. So we'll make our predictions there. I see the D-backs taking 2 out of 3 from St. Louis. It's a hard sport to call, but that's what I see.
I think I would agree. I mean, maybe St. Louis's bats shock you. I mean, Nolan's still having one of his Nolan years.
Could definitely happen, but I think this is the bounce-back series that Arizona needs, and if they sink instead of swim here, they might be drowning.
Yeah, that Jack Flaherty could almost definitely be a guy that would be on the move, given this current state of the Cardinals.
Another big starter we haven't mentioned yet. Yeah, a lot of those teams. Because I mean, Jack Flaherty could go to a lot of those teams, like the Orioles we mentioned before,
or
also.
even the Rays,
even the Reds.
Yeah, I mean there are so many options. Keeping the action in the NL, we'll go to the Marlins, who had an extremely surprising first half, in my opinion. We're 0-8 since the All-Star break. Finally snapped that with a huge win. Luis Arraez, who's been one of the biggest bright spots and turnaround and helps for the turnaround of the Marlins, walks it off.
Huge win for them to finally get one after the All-Star break. Yeah, the team's somehow still firmly in this race. I mean, these other teams have played pretty mediocre baseball. A lot of 5-5 last 10s, a lot of 2-8s like Arizona.
It really just tells you how well the Marlins played in the first half.
So it's up for the taking, and it was a surprising first half, which is why they're in this position in the first place, to still be a half game out.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to go 2-8 in your last 10 and lose 8 in a row, I mean,
they're tied with Philadelphia right now, and then above them, only a half a game is. The 2 spot is tied between Arizona and San Francisco, which is completely up for grabs. The 2 and 3 spots there, a half game. I mean, what teams do you think squeeze in?
I think there's a log jam. There's 5 teams that are in prime position right now. I think, if you want my honest opinion, I think Philly has the experience, so I'll give them one of the 3 spots for sure. I think they're gonna pull through now that Harper is at least, like we said before, playing first base for them, doing whatever he can to help.
I'm definitely with you on that. I actually fully leaned Philadelphia, especially seeing how they performed in the postseason last year. I mean, that's a team of clutch players, and they added Trey Turner, obviously, if he steps
Huge
up. And
deal.
He could be an absolute spark plug. He hasn't been this year, and the team is still a half game out.
Schwarber needs to get that average up a little bit.
They've been missing Harper a lot. Schwarber's been struggling. Turner's not really producing much at the top of the lineup, and this team is a half game out. So, I mean, I absolutely think they take one of those 3 spots. For my personal entertainment value, I hope those Red kids are in.
Yeah, that would be fun. I hope that I'm pulling for him as well.
I want to see Ellie in the postseason.
I do like the Diamondbacks, but I think the most interesting team here is the Giants, because nobody really expected the Giants to be in this position.
Not a lot of people talking about them, too.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really do... They had the Carlos Correa deal that fell through, the original deal, but they didn't really... They were going after Judge, and it fell through, so like everyone was like, oh, the Giants...
Messiest offseason out of any team, I would say. Yeah, it was an absolute mess.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, but, I mean, it doesn't seem to have affected them too much as they're Still, I mean they're on a little skid right now on a 5-game losing streak, but
1-5 before that.
yeah, they're in a prominent position right now. They gotta have a good deadline and make a push.
Another one of those teams. Yeah, another one of those teams. I could see San Francisco being in there too. Yeah, I think maybe Arizona falls out. I just don't know if the talent's there this year.
I think the biggest question is because the Marlins have been a question mark all year. Everyone was always waiting for them to fizzle out. Do you think this is the fizzle out, or do you think they're going to bounce back and maybe make a run at it?
Sorry, that's for the Marlins.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
You think they get?
I think that's one of the toughest calls in the sport right now because the team is so talented, but again, young. And unproven.
They really need Sandy to go back to his last year form.
And you drop a couple places down again, and you're to the 6 and 7.5 game out between the Padres and Mets, like that range. The big payroll boys, do they come back? Do they actually live up to any of their hype?
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see what the teams that have spent the most money and have struggled. It seems like all year.
Like you said, it's a logjam. It's a headache.
Yeah,
and
we'll see how it plays out. But I think you got to put the Phillies in there. I think Cincinnati, they have a lot of energy, so maybe. And then
I think San Francisco. I think it's those.
I think the third spot's up to San Francisco and Arizona. I don't believe in Miami. I'm sorry.
And a lot can change with the coming deadline. Like maybe Miami makes a big move, and you do believe in Miami.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't think that they have the pitching to get it done. Their lineup, it's good, but is it that good? You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm loving the new playoff format. Just seeing how close these races are each year.
Yeah, I do like the new wild card format. It's interesting. And the 3-game series is a cool addition as well.
A big home field advantage as well.
I think
so who gets it.
I think it'll be an interesting race, and I mean with the deadline looming, anyone that makes a big deal could shift the way we think. You know.
Each and every one of these teams.
So
and then there's also the big teams that are still looming in the background. Who might make a big deal to make themselves even better.
Absolutely.
Those Braves and those Dodgers. Who,
yeah.
I mean, they snatch guys up all the time.
Even the Brewers maybe might look to add. Everyone was talking about, maybe they'll trade Corbin Burns, but they're in first in their division. And
they could use bats. They could use some bats.
Why are they going to trade the guy? I know he was unhappy with them, but, why would they trade the guy?
That's another team depending on some young guys, depending on their Owen Millers and, their Brian Andersons. Maybe we go get a big vet.
In all fairness, though, they did kind of do that with Josh Hader last year.
Yeah, they did.
They were in a prominent position to make a run, and they just kind of shocked the baseball world and sent him to San Diego.
Very true, very true.
So, I guess it could happen, but we'll see.
Keep our eye on this wild card race going into the deadline.
Should be interesting.
Moving on to talk about our New York Mets. They dropped 2 out of 3 again, this time to the Red Sox. Canna had 3 outfield assists last night. Kind of big trade ship right now. We're 7.5 out of the wild card. There's 5 teams to jump. Big payroll, like I said, and that's a lot of teams. There's a lot to sell, and it's a big trade deadline. Will we buy or will we sell?
I think it's going to come down to how they play over the next week. The next 5 games that they have, or 6 games they have. They got 2 coming up against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, Tuesday and Wednesday. And then this weekend they got a 4-gamer at home in Citi Field against the Nationals. The lowly Nationals. So you got to beat up on the Nationals. And maybe the front office sees they got a little bit of fight left in them. I don't want them to make a mistake and make a big trade for somebody, and then they don't make a push anyway.
It might be the best part about baseball. These guys got to get out there, and they have to play well enough. They got a Major League 2, these guys. I mean, maybe Major League 1. Maybe I'm getting the movie wrong. But they got to make the GM make a move.
To answer your question, I think they will be. In the end, I think that they're going to end up selling. I don't know. I just don't think the team has enough.
I actually think they sell as well. It's sad to say. I don't think they have enough in the tank. They go out there some nights and they look good, and they squeak it out. when they look good. You know,
I
what
mean, even just last week against the White Sox, they score 11 runs, they got to give up 10.
it's insane. The bullpen's weak. It was never the same once Edwin Diaz got hurt. I mean, it's
Yeah, it was a crushing blow before the season even began.
yeah, the morale was down, and I don't know if it ever really recovered fully. The boys dropped a lot of games in June. They had a rough June.
So let's say they are sellers. You think you got your Canas, you got Pham. They already traded off Escobar. You'd think Robertson can go.
I really do think Robertson goes too. I mean, and that'll depend on how they play in this next week. If they play poorly in this next week and they're out of it, I think Robertson goes as an expiring deal. I think it just makes sense because he's pitching so well. You could get a real good player for him, maybe two.
I mean, maybe even Ottavino if somebody's desperate enough and they need a veteran arm.
I think maybe the pitch clock has seen the game past that man by.
Yeah, it has not done him any favors,
He
to say the least.
works a bit slow and a bit too old school for the new modern game. I think I see Pham getting moved too. I don't know. I'm trying to think of teams that need outfielders though. You know.
I mean, the Yankees, but who do they trade him to the Yankees? I saw earlier that the Phillies were interested in him.
When's the last Mets Yankees trade? You know, when's the last one? It doesn't happen often.
It doesn't happen frequently, but you never say never.
I wouldn't mind seeing that one.
I would rather. I don't know. Would you rather trade Pham to the Yankees or the Phillies?
It would hurt to see him help either of those teams succeed, but I kind of would rather him be a Yankee. Maybe
I think I agree with you. The Phillies are just.
That's what I mean. If Tommy Pham is having huge moments in an NLCS in a Phillies uniform this year,
it'd be pretty tough to swallow.
It's going to be upsetting for Mets fans all over the world.
Now, the biggest question, we're talking about the guys that are lower salary. Well, not really low. I mean, they are compared to what I'm going to say. Do they trade one of or both of Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander?
That's a fun hypothetical, but can they? You know, these are guys with no trade clauses.
I've seen teams are interested.
Teams are interested, but it's entirely up to Verlander or Scherzer.
Oh yeah, of course.
They signed in New York. They didn't sign to go play in Arizona.
Absolutely.
None of them signed for that. So I mean, it's a different.
Well, I mean, say a team like San Francisco comes knocking to Justin Verlander.
That might be interesting. That's kind of the only fit I could see.
I was just talking about how they missed on Judge, they missed on Correa. You know, they want their big free agent guy. They didn't get him because he signed with us.
But I think
make a trade for him.
If the Mets move Verlander, though, I think they're going to have to swallow up a good amount of that contract.
It depends, though, because if the Giants want him bad enough, they might just take the money, and then they won't have to give up as many prospects. Because if we eat the salary, they're going to have to give us a better prospect.
Verlander's down to a 3.47. Yeah, the numbers are stabilizing a bit.
I mean, it's not what he was last year. Obviously, it's hard to replicate. I mean, he had one of the greatest seasons ever last year from a guy approaching or at 40 years old. I mean,
most
a
definitely.
1.75 is insane.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance Max Scherzer ends up wearing another uniform this year. I think that's kind of my opinion on that. I don't think he's even really entertaining it.
It's fair enough. I don't know. I've seen that they've been talking about both of them. I think I agree with you. Verlander is more likely than Scherzer. And I think I would rather it be more likely. I'm not a fan of Justin Verlander. I just never was. I never will be. But, yeah. I mean, if you want my opinion, if they can get rid of Verlander, please do it.
Yeah.
Help us out.
Fair enough. And lastly, my opinion on Mark Canha is I think he doesn't get moved.
The 3 outfield assists last night were incredible.
They were. That's a nice little showcase for the other teams, and I know other people saw that. Everybody had to.
Could have had a 4th, too.
Definitely could have. Yeah.
Danny Mendick just missed the tag.
I can see teams asking about him. I don't think he gets moved just because he has the team option coming up this year. I think the Mets want to have that flexibility for the outfield spot in case they kind of don't find another person to plug there.
So you think even if they're sellers, Canha stays?
I think if they sell, we're seeing Robertson and Pham leave, for sure.
Interesting.
And I think Canha ends up staying on the team, but we'll be hearing his name a lot on that deadline day.
I'm in disagreement. I think Canha is up there with Pham as the most likely. More than Robertson, if you want my opinion.
Really?
I just think the Mets might want to hang on to Robertson because they might want to bring him back next year.
Expiring deal. What if
they might want to bring him back next year to, I mean...
Well, we pull a Chapman.
Yeah,
Do a
you're not
little
going to get
Chapman, Gleyber Torres.
You're not going to get as much for Robertson as they did for
Right.
Chapman.
You don't
He's 37.
You don't need as much.
What are you going to get? One prospect, and then he's going to come back.
A
I mean,
couple
anything
de-
helps, I guess.
A couple
but
decent prospects, maybe because of how phenomenal of a year Robertson's having. I mean, that stuff's still there. The guy's 38.
fair enough. Yeah.
You know, so I mean, how much of a loss is it if you lose a 39-year-old, which is what he'll be next year? I mean, if that's what you lose.
You didn't want to see Robertson and Diaz back to back, though.
Of course I did.
Well, it
and
could
I
happen
still
next
do.
year.
It could happen this year.
It could happen this year if the Mets are in a prominent position to make a push. I think Edwin Diaz will come back. It was a leg injury, not an arm injury. He will be able to do it if he needs to.
That might be one of the most brutal blows to the entertainment of baseball.
Oh,
is,
yeah.
If he could come back this year, and where the Mets are too bad, so he doesn't.
Yeah, but
That guy needs to. He's electric.
at that point, I would just rather them just
And they will. They will.
let
They'll
him
sit
take his time off and come
Yeah.
back fully healthy next year.
If the team isn't competitive, Edwin's not pitching. And that's which really sucks because I don't know, man.
He's the best. He's the best reliever in the National
And
League.
it's the most expensive team in baseball. I mean, you really wished for better from them. It's
Definitely.
disappointing, and I think we're both in agreement that they will be sellers.
I do think they will be selling 101 wins last year. Nothing to scoff at, but the Braves just happen to be a little bit better.
That was a phenomenal season. This one is not.
No, it has not gone accordingly. And just to touch on it real quick, the American League Central. Prediction on who you think's going to win on 3. 1, 2, 3. Twins. Okay, so we're in agreement there. I do think that the Guardians do have a chance. It depends how their deadline goes as well. I know that's been like the theme of the episode is how the deadline will go, but that's just the time of the year that we're at.
Give a little bit of respect to Cleveland as well. They do have J-Ram and, again, Bieber, who might be on the move. We'll see.
Game under 500. You know, the division's weak. The Twins, 8-2 in their last 10, with 3-game win streak. They're getting a little hot.
I think that division is theirs to lose. That's just simply put.
I know it probably won't be their year this year, but the Tigers look like they could be on the up and up in a year or two, maybe.
They are exciting, and shout out friend of the pod, relief pitcher Brendan White.
Yes, absolutely. Shout out Brendan White. Congratulations on making it to the show this year, my friend.
This is a memorial service for one of, if not, the greatest generation of pitchers ever.
Carlos Carrasco.
3-time All-Star, 2006 World Series champion, Uncle Charlie, Adam Wainwright.
7-time All-Star. 2018 World Series champion, Chris Sale.
6-time All-Star, 2009 Cy Young, Zach Greinke.
4-time All-Star. 3-time World Series champ. All-time postseason pitcher, Mad Bum, Madison Bumgarner.
3-time All-Star, 2-time Cy Young, the Klubot, Corey Kluber.
3-time Cy Young Award winner, 8-time All-Star, 2019 champion, 2 no-hitters, a 20 strikeout performance. Mad Max, Max Scherzer.
The 3-time Cy Young, the Triple Crown winner, the 2014 MVP. He is Clayton Kershaw.
3-time Cy Young Award winner, the 2011 MVP, Justin Verlander.
I am Bill Whalen.
And I'm Mike Whalen.
We'll see you next time, folks.